All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen out there. Welcome to another episode of Bold TV. And this is a program that is powered by Bold Hearts Initiative, an initiative and network of beautiful, outstanding ladies with disabilities. And once again, we are here to inform and educate you on issues surrounding disability, especially disability as it affects women and girls. And today, we bring to you another interesting topic, and we are celebrating a form of disability today. September happens to be Spinal Injury Awareness Month. And in particular, September 5th is the day when spinal cord injury awareness is celebrated. And today we've come today to, highlight some of the issues surrounding this particular form of disability. And with me, I have a panel of discussants, all ladies with disabilities who have, different opinions that they can weigh in on the conversation. But before we go on, I'd like to, once again, solicit for your support financially, and, your physical presence also matters. Sharing our videos far, to on all your social media platforms will go a long way to help us keep propagating the message of disability. So today I solicit for your support. If you can support us financially, please reach out to any of the co-hosts, myself, Afyong, Freki, Tomisin, Osaki, or Abiose, and we will help you to navigate this terrain. And if you want to be on the program, you can also reach out to us and we'll guide you on what to do and what is expected. And we also appreciate your presence online. Tune in and listen to us as we go forward. So today we celebrate Spinal Cord Injury Awareness. We are here to talk about it. We are here to inform and educate you about it. But before we continue, I'd like the ladies, my discussants, to introduce themselves, as is our tradition. Introduce themselves, your name, your location, what you do, and your type of disability.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, ladies. I'm Osaki Teresa George. I reside in Port Harcourt, Rivers State. I work with Fair Care Foundation. I'm a tutor in Microsoft application and a member of Bold Heart Initiative, polio survivor. I'm very, very glad to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for sticking around with us. I'm Oluwatomisin Adeyefa, a solution journalist who practice in the broadcasting sector. I'm a sound engineer, disability and gender rights advocate, a sexual and reproductive health campaigner. I also work with Angel Wings Global Freedom Foundation. Feels good to be here. And for the record, I'm a visually impaired person.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Bold TV. My name is Freki Andrew Essien, based in Port Harcourt in River State. I use spinal cord injury. I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury. When they use spinal cord injury? No, how would they use it? I don't know. So I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury. Welcome to this specific episode that is on SCI awareness.
All right, you're welcome. You can actually use it. You're using it to educate. All right, Abby, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Abby Williams. I use wheelchair, spinal cord injury.
Okay, your location?
I'm from Edo State.
Okay.
Talking from
You're
Benin
welcome.
City. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. It's good.
Good morning. My name is Grace Jerry, and I'm also a wheelchair user, a spinal cord injury survivor for 20 years now. Yeah.
Okay. And where are you based?
I'm reaching you from Abuja, from the FCT. I'm the Executive Director of Inclusive Friends Association based here in Abuja.
All right. Welcome.
Yeah.
It's good to have you.
So, and today I am your host. My name is Afyong Etem. I'm based in Uyo. I'm a medical lab scientist, a member of Bold Heart Initiative. I use a wheelchair from spinal cord injury. And today I will be spearheading this discussion.
So now let's get down to it. First and foremost, I'm going to ask the question. Let's put it out there so that everybody knows what we are talking about. Spinal cord injury. What is it? And how does it affect women in particular? So, Grace, would you like to go first?
Okay, so let me go first. I think I should wish everyone here and those who are watching happy International Spinal Cord Injury Week. I don't know if I should say happy or whatever it is, power to you. Oh, power to you, because I can't even begin to talk about the numerous challenges, that we have surmounted, how we have had to adapt to so many lifestyle changes and all of that. Yeah, you asked a question on what is a spinal injury. I think it's as simple as the name sounds. It's an injury that has affected the spine and in a way has affected the spinal cord. Now the spinal cord houses the cord and of course a web of nerves that controls every motion, every movement, sensation in every part of your body. It transmits messages from the brain all the way down to every part of your body. So depending on the level with which your spine is affected and the cord is also either transected or injured, it affects the level below where the injury happens. So if, for instance, if your spine is affected from the neck down, from the neck, there's every probability that or possibility that you would lose sensation from your shoulder region or from your chest region all the way down to the lower part of your body. In some cases, it's complete paralysis, while in some cases, it's partial paralysis, depending on the level of injury to your spinal cord. I want to believe, you and Freki, who are the medical people in our midst, to do justice to this topic. So you should have asked Freki first. Thank you so much.
Let's get the layman's perspective first. All right, Freki.
All right, then.
Can you break it down for us?
There was nothing lay about that perspective. It was very, very
okay.
There's no confusing people. But for the person out there, Grace has said it all. What connects the body by way of nerve and sensation and transmitting of information from the brain to the different parts of the body is that long thing on your back. There's this long thing. They used to tell you that it's S, shape.
That long thing inside chicken.
Yes.
That white long thing inside chicken neck.
That they like sucking. Okay.
Okay.
So the spinal cord is right inside that vertebrae, your vertebrae that goes, across your back. And the body is divided into different levels. You have cervical, which is within the neck region, thoracic, which is within the chest region, and then you have the lumbar and you have sacral. Like I said, no need getting complicated, but basically when there is trauma to the spinal cord and it affects its ability to transmit information from either the brain to a nerve ending and vice versa, then we say that spinal injury has occurred. The presentation of spinal cord injury is different for everybody, even when the transection or compression or injury is at the same level. So basically, keeping it simple, you now have a picture of what the spinal cord is and where it is in the body, how long it is, at any level of the body, when it is affected by trauma and injured. Injury could result in compression. Compression is just like the word says. It could be a depression. It could be a whatever it is. There are so many words. But as long as it's injury and it affects that, premium function or optimal function of the spine, then we say that spinal cord injury has happened. It's important to put it there because I don't want to say because, okay, let me put it there, because people just believe that spinal cord injury is equal to wheelchair. And that is not necessarily true. We'll tell us more about that. But just note, once injury has occurred, on that thing called the spinal cord, then it's a spinal cord injury. Thank you.
All right, I think our science lesson is complete. Our science lesson is complete, and we have gotten information. And for women, there are some of the peculiarities that apply to women may be when it comes to the reproductive system. Especially, sometimes there are some people that when their spinal cord is damaged, like Freki said, messages are not transmitted as it should be. For some people, their period stops. Some people, because there's no sensation down there, they are not able to, understand how their body works. For some people, when it comes to childbearing, there may be some complications, but for different people, there are different complications. All right, so now we're going to move on to the next question. We all know that there are some people, people use derogatory terms. People say all manner of things about people on wheelchairs. So I'd like to know, and I'll start with you, Tomisin. Have you heard, what are some of the societal notions and stereotypes you've heard when it comes to people with spinal cord injuries?
All right. Thank you very much. Enlightening to know that it automatically doesn't mean you end up in a wheelchair when you have spinal cord injury. I mean, that's one common notion that we all have. I believe that once we see a wheelchair user, we assume it's as a result of a spinal cord injury, vice versa. I mean, when you see someone on wheelchair, you assume and all of that. So that's one common notion. And then you hear for women, you hear things like, how would such a person have sexual intercourse, let alone give birth to a child? And so then you hear things like, how do they, have their bath? How do they move around? Then you hear things like people on wheelchair, people who use wheelchair, usually come down with obesity. I mean, I've seen very slim, packaged women and men on wheelchair. And I mean, so that's another common premonition towards wheelchair users or spinal cord injuries.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Abby, you want to add to that? What are some of the stereotypes, some of the things you've heard? The common, what people think about people on wheelchairs, people with spinal cord injury. What are some of the things you've heard, generally, that how people perceive people on wheelchairs?
Yeah, in this part where I come from, they tend to see people on wheelchair as beggars. Once they see you, what comes to their mind, it's this person is a beggar. I remember one time I went to the secretariat to sign a document, and I came down from the car. I was even holding my baby. I just had my baby. My baby was like 4 months. And one man just walked to me and gave me 100 naira. I said, thank you, but I don't need it. He said, take. I was just like, okay, I carried it. Because I didn't just have power to explain, like, okay, I don't need this money. Because to me, it happened to me. So I was like, okay, so this is what people have been passing through. Because in my group, they used to say it, that they tend to see them. Once they just see them, they'll just walk up to them and give them something. I was like, oh, wow, this is serious. But
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And we've seen a lot. They say, some people actually think it's a curse, that maybe you're cursed something, you did something bad, and that's why you ended up in that situation. That's why you're the way you are. So many things, from the religious to the cultural, so many things happen. Some cultures see such people as people that should only be heard of, they shouldn't be seen. And some of them are hidden and kept away. And so this further, entrenches, the disadvantage that people with physical impairment face. So we're going to talk about, the specific challenges that women and girls with spinal cord injury face. What are some of those challenges? Like we've established that these things are, for each person, there are different challenges, there are different, manifestations of their impairment. So what are some of the specific challenges that women and girls face? Frankie, I'd like you to go first.
Okay, thank you very much. Since the prevailing theme is spinal cord injury, I will stick with that. When it comes to a key challenge, I think a key challenge that women and girls face with spinal cord injury is self-care. Now, it could feel like across board, for every person, self-care is important. That is the activities of daily living, like grooming and toileting and all of that. But for women, especially because of that time of the month, it becomes especially a challenge. Imagine a lady with disability, specifically a woman who is a spinal cord survivor, who may not have sensation, who the presentation of a spinal cord injury is no sensation below the injury. And that area of sensation or lack of sensation means that she may not be able to determine when her monthly flow is, if she's not counting or if it is irregular. So that area of self-care can become a challenge specifically for women with disabilities who are survivors of spinal cord injury. Because I've seen women get stained and the wheelchair joint is not a whole, thing. I've seen, odoriferous things happening because of improper, you're not taking care of yourself at that time, especially of the month, because you think that, okay, don't understand. No. So that's a challenge that I have seen happen, not being able to properly handle or manage menstrual hygiene matters as a result of some of the complications like no sensation from spinal cord injury or even maneuvering. So I've seen ladies who find it very difficult because it's difficult for them to maneuver within the chair. So they tend to not want to change in the course of that time. And of course, that stale blood doesn't have a good smell. So I've seen that happen as well, for women who are spinal cord survivors. And I needed to speak to that specifically because, no man will say he has period. So this is a challenge that I have seen happen, Thank you.
All right. Abby, you want to add to that? Challenges that women and girls with spinal cord injury face.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is self-doubt. Many ladies who are spinal cord survivors, they tend to not believe in themselves after the accident, after the injury. I have a lady in my group. I just saw her some months ago at the hospital. She was asking me, will I walk again? I said, that's not for me to say. I'm a survivor like you. That's for the doctors to say. She said, so I not go see my period again. I not go born picking. I was not trying to use myself as an example to encourage her. Like, I gave birth to 2 kids after the accident, and you can do it. You can. So some days ago, she called me that she started seeing meses. I was like, wow, that's good. She said, no, she not go fit dey see meses when she dey wheelchair. I said, but it's a good thing now. That shows that your system is still working. He said, no. To go to peace, na problem. To go toilet, na problem. Meses go come still join again. He no go fit to. He no go. I started trying to convince her that see, it's just normal. Okay, during your meses, you can use diaper and all of that. She said, no. I talked, and later on, I tried to convince her. That's what I'm trying to say is self-confidence. She's lost that during and the course of this accident. And that's one of the things we're trying to build for our ladies. To me, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Wow. I can just imagine. I feel her pain because, you start out and, it's like everything is coming one on top of the other. Like she said, peace, feel peace. Shit, feel shit. Menses can't join on top. It's a normal, it's like a circus, and you wonder, now only me waka come. Why is everything like this? First, she was complaining about not seeing her menses, and now she's complaining that the menses is a complication. So it's like a roller coaster of emotions. Grace, do you want to say something about the challenges we face? Freke has talked about the physical menstrual hygiene, how to handle it. Abby has come up with the mental, problems, having to cope with all the emotions and, all the how to handle the different physical manifestations. So do you have something to add to that?
All right, yes, I do. And I think before I say what I have to say, when Abby was talking about someone who gave her 100 naira, and she said she didn't know what to even do, she just collected it. What I would have done is to tell the man, sorry, please, can you make it 100,000?
Mm-hmm.
Can you just make it like up it, make it 100,000? And then I would see his reaction. And then I'll be like, if you can't make it 100,000, then keep it. This is too small. That kind of thing. Just on a lighter note, though, talking about challenges that, I mean, in fact, imagine a young lady. Let me use myself as a typical example. At age 22, at the prime of my youth, I would say, I was just understanding my life, learning how to do yanga fresh, getting guys toasting me here and there, and then all of a sudden, boom, sustained spinal injury. First and foremost is having to even understand what is happening to my body. I think that was the number one challenge. I didn't quite get it. I couldn't understand it. And somewhere within all of that confusion, I was also in denial, like, this is going to get better soon. Like, I was just counting days. One of these days, my body would come back to normal. My body would get back to normal. So I think, first of all, the challenge starts with you even understanding and even accepting what has happened to you. We all start by living in denial, and we're counting days. Very soon, sensation is going to be back. I'm going to be on my feet. And secondly, having to even learn how to navigate life all over again. For me, I had to be taught how to sit down. After I was lying down for 3 months at stretch in the hospital. I had to be taught how to sit down. After that, I was taught how to use a wheelchair, and then to navigate my way around the house, navigate my way around the environment with a wheelchair. So adapting to all of that changes with first your body and then lifestyle in terms of movement, all of those put together, I think it's just strange and it's new. And a lot of people find that very difficult. And you would see that a lot fall into depression because they just can't accept that this is going to be their new phase or next phase of life moving forward. So denial, I think, is one of those first huge challenges, having to adapt to your new body, your new lifestyle. Because for me, it was quite difficult. And after I left the hospital, the only place I could function was even within my house, because modifications were carried out for the wheelchair to be able to navigate. But beyond my house, I couldn't function anywhere else. So beyond the challenges that they have mentioned, I think for me it would be first accepting what has happened to your body, and even learning or having to even understand what it is and navigating your day-to-day are those challenges. Yeah.
All right, thank you. So, it revolves, not just goes beyond the physical, getting your head to wrap around what is actually happening. And,
Exactly.
it's like being a baby and trying to rediscover the use of your body, because everything
Exactly.
changes and you have to start afresh. Imagine learning how to sit again,
Learning how to sit,
walk, how to
learning how
move
to,
around again, a new way to move,
my
learning
goodness,
how to
learning
poop
how to
again, learning how
back
to pee again,
myself,
finding a
learning
new
how
way
to
to take your
transfer
bath and
myself.
all
I
that.
mean, it's strange. It's
It's
really
it's
strange.
enough to
Yeah.
mess with anybody's mind. And so we're going to move on to the theme for this year's Spinal Cord Injury Awareness Week, centers around women with spinal cord injury in conflict areas. And the theme says prepare and prevent. And more often than not, those of us here that we are talking, we are in areas that are relatively peaceful, and we can make this transition into this new way of life, without the pressure of having to worry about our security. So now imagine these things we've talked about, the physical problems, the mental issues, in an area where you're worrying if you can't even sleep at night. You don't even know if you're going to, somebody's going to come in and, you're going to be attacked any moment. So imagine the compounding the pressures of conflict or war with having to deal with physical disability. So we're going to focus on, we're going to talk now about how, especially for women and girls, how do they cope? Women and girls that may find themselves in conflict areas, let's say, for example, like in Maiduguri, running away, having to deal with Boko Haram. Women and girls in such areas who have, spinal cord injury, how would they cope with such a situation? What are some of the challenges they would face? And, how can we work towards, helping them prepare and deal with some of those challenges? All right, so Osaki, I want you to weigh in on this. At least, imagine someone who would be in that kind of situation. What are some of the challenges you think such a person would face?
Okay. I was trying to raise up my hand before now. I had polio and spinal cord, like, they're like brothers and sisters. This is so similar. Okay. So I'll say, like, I schooled in River State here. And then the school used to be hot. So when I say hot, I mean hot, as in hot guys everywhere. So one of the fears in school then was, what if you're in school and the shooting starts? We know what that could look like. So what I usually tell myself, that if it's happening in front, you'll be at the back. If it's happening at the back, you'll be in the front. Even if it's happening in your presence, there's no point panicking because you cannot even move fast. Just relax and say your prayers and look for the nearest place you can hide yourself, no matter how, because of course you can't move that fast. But just take your time and see if you can adjust than facing the wall itself. So what we'll do those days, as in we just had faith and moved to school. And we only hear the gist that you just left and they shot gun or something started happening. I never really had any experience of one-on-one, but always narrow escape. And eventually, so my friends I even had, when it's happened, they just lie down on the floor, they just stood there. They didn't really move much because you don't know where the gun is coming from. So it's either you just look for a place to just patch yourself, or you just stand, but don't take that panic or something to roll, because you don't know where the main hit is coming from. So I just hold on and just tell yourself you'll be safe and things will be fine with you. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Grace, you want to weigh in on that? Women and girls in conflict zones who have spinal cord injury, what are the challenges, the specific, the unique challenges they would face? Since we've highlighted, the general challenges for women and girls everywhere who have spinal cord injury, for those in conflict zones, what are the unique challenges they have?
All right, so I'm going to use myself as an example again. I lived in Jos. In fact, my family home is still in Jos. And if you look at the history of Jos, we also have faced some form of, conflicts from time to time, over a period of time. And I remember clearly one of the years, I can't remember which year precisely now, there was another serious conflict. And of course, if you look at the history of Plateau crisis, it's always between Muslim, Christian, faith, interreligious crisis. I live in a community where we were living together, both Muslim and Christians, but it got escalated because, the Muslims in my area more like had the heat. And directly behind my house, a Muslim was living there. And the house was under attack, and it was directly behind our house. While the house was set ablaze, our own house was filled with thick black smoke. And at some point, we actually thought it was our own house that was on fire. And everyone started running out. And I quickly got on my wheelchair, and you could see how they wheeled me with so much, the roughness, I can't even begin to tell you. But at that point, who was thinking of roughness?
Wow.
We just wanted to get away from the crisis because we thought it was our own house that was set on fire. And we had to run to another, to a neighbor's house. The house wasn't that accessible, but at that point, we were not even thinking about accessibility. We were just running for safety. And I remembered how difficult it was to even get into the house, but somehow they managed to get us into the house. And we were there till like evening, we were just hidden and with so much fear and all. But we ran out of the house, not even checking whether I had like any of my basic needs on me. We were just running for safety. And the thought I had was, I was with my family. Imagine that I was alone in the house. I would have stayed in that house. That thick smoke would have, caused a lot of damage to me. And probably maybe I would have died from inhaling the smoke. Another typical story, that same period, while I was experiencing mine, another lady with disability was experiencing hers in another part of the community. Unfortunately for her, she was even home alone. When the community was on fire, houses were being set on fire, people were being attacked. She said she was just inside and was just screaming for help. And the neighbor who was running past also heard her screaming and rushed to come help her. And what they did was that somebody carried her upper body, somebody carried her legs. Nobody looked whether there was a wheelchair by the corner. She didn't even think of her wheelchair. She just wanted to run. And somebody carried the upper part, somebody carried the leg and ran her to another place of safety. It was after the thing doused down, the whole crisis, the whole situation was calm, that they could go fetch her wheelchair and she was put on it to sit for a while. But of course, running, you are home and there are some vulnerable situations you would have been in. So you are not thinking of maybe carrying an extra diaper if you use a diaper. You're not even thinking of carrying maybe your medication, or you're not even thinking about anything. You're just running for safety. My point is, imagine that you're not either with people who are close by or people who are related to you, or imagine that nobody heard that lady when she was screaming. We would definitely have been burnt in the house or inhaled smoke and would have died. So to say that the reduced mobility for a person with spinal cord injury is a huge challenge, because if you're not assisted, how do you run for safety? If you don't have your mobility aid close by, or even if you're on the mobility aid, except someone helps you cross some form of barriers in running for safety, you would be vulnerable. You would be in a position of being attacked by crisis. So I have lived this experience firsthand because of my community in Jos. Yes, now I'm back in Abuja, but because we are still surrounded day by day with these insurgencies, I would tell you that the protects people. Can you hear me? It's
Yes,
just
we
to
can
come
hear
up with
you.
early warning signs and mechanisms that would aid
Okay.
persons with spinal cord injury for safe. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Wow. I can't imagine what you went through on that day. Just it's hard enough when you can't even get to where you need to be, in peacetime. Imagine knowing that death is drawing near and you can't do anything about it. Frankie, do you want to weigh in on that about the needs of persons in conflict zones with spinal cord injury?
Well, I live in Port Harcourt in River State, and thank God we have not had direct issues. However, I have had the opportunity of being in the face of a challenge where I was attacked. And I think the best I can say is whatever you do, just keep a level head. And that's if you are able to just hold on, you can think and make decisions quickly. Why am I saying that? When I was attacked by miscreants who were looking for who to kidnap and rob. So one of the things that helped me to escape from that situation was to keep calm. I'm not going to even begin to pretend that I've been in war or anything, but no. But one thing I know that helped the thinking process to know what next. Okay, what do I do next? What do I do next? Was just to be calm for a moment so that a thought could come through. So if you can achieve that, a thought can come through and you can seek the help that you require, whether it is screaming for help, which is really the best solution, or trying to appeal to whoever is coming to attack you. So yes, women, persons with spinal cord injury who are in conflict areas, vulnerability is increased. Unfortunately, a lot of times it leads to increased death. That's double jeopardy in that trauma, even more trauma that beyond the spinal cord injury. So I would say, let's be careful. Let's watch out. Let people know where you are. The time it helps people to be able to find you should something like that happen. So that's my take. Thanks.
Okay. All right, Abby.
For this year's theme, I was discussing with Mr. Ayo. I said this prepare and prevent. I don't think Nigeria in particular, we're in Nigeria, was part of their plan in bringing that theme, because the situation of this country, there's nothing the government is doing to help to prepare us nor prevent anything from happening to persons with disability. Yesterday, Jonapid had a meeting in Benin about the elections. We went to INEC, and the Jonapid leader was talking to the INEC chairman, like during the elections, how are they going to fix persons PWDs to work there? He said there is no way. I was like, how? I said in Port Harcourt, they killed a copper during one election. Now they killed a copper, and a DSP came to ask them why. Why did you kill the copper? They killed the DSP. He said, then imagine able persons, they are doing that. Say, what about persons with disability? He said, so there's no plan, or there's nothing that the government is not making any plans for us. So when the team came up, I was like, prepare and prevent. Not in this part of the world, not in Nigeria. Not in Nigeria. There's nothing, truth be said, there's nothing about we're preparing. Those ones that our sister just said now about something happened in our house. Sorry, I'm coming in a minute. Something happened in their house and they helped her. I don't think that's the prepare and prevent they're talking about. I think they're talking about the government doing that, prevent and prepare for spinal cord nor persons with disability. Yeah, that's what I wanted to, that's my input.
Okay. So we've established that vulnerability increases during in conflict areas and in conflict situations. But when we talk about just government doing this, we know that there's always a part for the individual to play, whether we agree or not. Like Freki said, you have to take a moment. We have this herd mentality, like saying cows together or sheep together. Most people, when in times of conflict or there's something happening and you see people running from there down here, and some people don't stop to ask what's happening. They just follow and run. And for a person with disability, you can't do that. You can't just join the crowd and where will you even run to? So sometimes it's good to take a moment and just evaluate the situation. What's going on? What can I do at this particular time? Can I call for help? So that means, you may have to make some preparations in the event that you find yourself in a situation where something like that happens, and you can call for help, or at least get yourself to some safety before, you get people to help you. Because sometimes when everybody is panicking, nobody is thinking. And sometimes nobody may you're the last person they will consider. Everybody's like, I need to leave. I have to save myself. And nobody's thinking, oh, who is that person sitting there? So in the event that something happens, there's some part for you to play in preparing, so that we know we live in a volatile society, and anything can erupt at any time, but we need to prepare ourselves.
Exactly. So let me
yes.
just buttress that a little bit. I think the measures to even protect persons with, spinal cord injury, we also need to think inward and come up with those methods, or come up with those preventions, and just how we know how best, we should be able to come up with how best people can take care of us, or people can take us to that point of safety. And that's why it's important that, interestingly, when we hold this conversation, I think beyond just this session that we're having, is something that we should come together and devise means and mechanism on how people can even adapt to safety measures for persons with spinal cord injury. We've been talking about, we need to enlighten even our families. We need to enlighten the general public. We need to even enlighten the security on what to do. Because the question would be, what do we do when you engage with the security? What they would ask you is, how do we go about it? Because this is a totally different and a new terrain for them. We would have to come up with the methodologies for them to adopt on how to provide safety and prevention for people like us. So beyond this beyond this session, we should also come together to decide on what to do that the general public can adopt to help us. Yeah.
Okay. Can you share with us, what are some things you think women and girls with spinal cord injury can, do to prepare, especially for, situations like this where there's conflict, or situations where, they need to get to safety? What are some of the things you think they can do?
So what can we do? Taking responsibility for our safety, yeah? That's where we are at. As a person who uses a wheelchair, there's a tendency to always have an extra, we pack extra things, right? We have it, that is under the chair somewhere. Like, a secret we are telling everybody. So make sure that your bag is not empty, or that when you take out, you refill it. I think so. Always check your bag to make sure that your extra supplies are always up to date, because you never know when you need them. So that's one major one that you can do, because in era of conflict, in fact, whether conflict or not, you could end up where you did not think you were going to stay overnight, or something would happen. So always make sure that your bag, or your carry-on is up to date. And then if you do not take a carry-on, the question will be why? Why? It's not load. It's okay. Hang it on your wheelchair or hang it on yourself, but always have a carry-on somewhere for yourself. And then if you have a primary caregiver, that conversation has to be had. If somebody's always with you at every time, you need to have conversations with that person on, like, create scenarios and figure out, okay, how can we get out of here? How can we get out of here? We depend on our wheelchair a lot, but we live in Nigeria, where a lot of times where we need to be is not accessible. So create situations where you need to figure out how to get out of places, whether it's for yourself. I always remember this story Afyong said, where she needed to get out of her house, and then there was this depression, and then she found herself always having to wait for somebody to come and now help her down, till one day there was nobody to help her down, and she came down, and she was like, oh, so I can come down. So you and I be like second fiddle, and your primary caregiver. Let's have that conversation on how best you people can be quick about responding to, like, disaster management. Like, have a disaster management plan for yourself. So I'll stop there. I can come back for more later, but I'll stop there.
Okay, Tomisin.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to share my tips using an experience I once had when I was in the Polytechnic, and we had students on rest, and usually I work with a group of friends, and that day wasn't an exception. I was with my friends. Unfortunately, when they started saying run, 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 everybody left me and ran.
Ew.
And so sometimes we also have to consider, as women, men with disabilities, that sometimes Because, I mean, it's a situation, it's an emergency. If you are not particularly trained, even when you are trained for that duty specifically, you have the fear of first, keeping yourself first before you think of the next person, let alone a wheelchair user or a spinal cord injury. So I would want to say that in situations like that, taking time out to be calm, to assess the situations. For me, it was worse because I couldn't even see. So as a spinal cord injuries, I'm sure you'll be able to look around you, taking out time. It's going to take seconds. It's not something you have to sleep on. It's not something you have to think through and through. But, taking out time, catch your breath, look around. In fact, that day I had to step into a nearest drainage. That was what I did. Because I remember that while I was walking, a friend of mine was saying that I'm very close to the gutter and all of that. So I had to just sit on the floor, take my leg to examine how deep it was. So I would say that taking our time to assess situations, even when there is no human help, is also a good way to go, and trying your possible best to get out of that situation. Another thing I would say is having emergency contacts is also another thing to do. Now, some of us as persons with disabilities, some of our aides, some of our caregivers, they probably live far off from where we are, and probably they will need to go like a distance before getting to us or getting help. Having a neighbor or somebody down the road or somebody in the next building whom you've cultivated some kind of friendship, maybe not a very deep friendship, but I mean, somebody you can, call on in case of emergency, and perhaps people who could render that assistance are not very close by. So, I mean, that's the two things I think we can also do as persons who survived spinal cord injury.
All right. Thank you very much for weighing in and sharing your experience. So one key thing is be environmentally aware. Be aware of your environment wherever you go to. I know we do this thing. Spinal cord injury survivors, we do this. You go to a place, the first thing you're looking out for, do they have an accessible toilet? That is the first thing. You're looking out, do they have it? So before you even go there, you call ahead and find out if possible. Check, is the entrance accessible? Do they have accessible bathrooms so that if you need to pee, you can help yourself and you don't have to sit and be wondering if you're going to wet, act drama there. So be aware of your environment. And then, so in addition to looking for bathrooms, look out for exits. Is it accessible? If something happens, can I easily get out? Or better yet, if you can go with someone, get someone that can assist you so that if you need to make a quick getaway, someone can help you out. So these are some of the things there's a part for us to play. And so as we're about to round up this discussion, I'd like each of us to weigh in on, give advice. We've talked about caregivers, we've talked about the government, we've talked about the individual. So I'd like us to weigh in on how can these different people, these different facets of society make life a bit easier and help women and girls with spinal cord injury to have a more wholesome experience of life. What can these different people do? What can the government do? What can the family do? What can the individual do? We've talked most earlier about the individual preparing. What can society do to help people with spinal cord injury live a more wholesome life and be able to have access to overcome these different barriers we've mentioned. So I'm going to start with you, Abby. What are some of this? You can choose to address one or two of those groups of people. Let's keep it brief. We're about to round up and our time is short.
Okay, yeah. I was coming for the family. What the family can do for us. I think they just need to encourage us and boost us, give us that self-confidence back, because it's really not easy. Like in my case, it was my family that really helped me. even now that I'm doing some things, involving myself in groups and all of that, it's still them that are giving me that lever to do it. Like sometimes I'll just say, no, I don't want to be there, see me for this place. I don't want to. They're like, go, you, there's nothing. You just the same you are this, you born for it, you do. And I'll just pick up my the courage and do it. So if our families can help us, like ginger us, it will be very, very good, because I see some families um, who put down these persons with a spinal cord injury, like telling them, you never reach when you go die, you they slow us down, you they make things difficult for us. Now life you they live. So you see, those words are words that come from families. Yeah. So if our families can really, really help us and build our hope back, it would be nice. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. So family support, very important. All right, Grace, who do you want to talk to?
I first, I think I'll talk to the persons with the spinal cord injury, and also stretching it across persons with disabilities. I remember I made mention of electoral violence. In the face of electoral violence, what would a person with disability or a person with spinal cord injury do? What I would say to you, that when you find yourself in that situation, or when you get to a polling unit, vote and leave that place. What you don't need to hang around. As soon as you're done with your business, leave that environment and go monitor the remaining process from the comfort of your home, via radio, via TV. You have to remember that safety first for you before any other person can even think of helping you. So always think of safety for yourself and come up with ways with which you can be aided, where you can be helped. That's what I would say. Of course, I mentioned it earlier that if we still want to go further by helping the society on method and ways with which we can be protected, we also need to come up with those designs and methodologies ourselves. They need to know what to do to evacuate us to the place of safety. And one more thing I'm going to talk about is the cost of livelihood for a person with spinal cord injury. While it is expensive, cost of living for a person with disabilities is high. A cost for living for a person with spinal cord injury is even higher. So I think it's something that the society needs to really, really look into. Issues cannot be overemphasized, but when you talk about budgeting, when you talk about allocations, when you talk about speaking to the government and even to private sectors, it's times 2 or times 5 or times 10 cost for a person with spinal cord injury. Our mobility aids are super expensive, medical super expensive, and because of the level of injury, you have to live on medication for almost the rest of your life. You need constant supply of your basic needs almost throughout the rest of your life if you're on a wheelchair, except for a miracle. So I think costs needs to be looked into. But overall, in terms of conflict and violence, we need to come up with methodologies that can be used. But safety first for you as an individual. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That cost issue, let's not go there. We know how it is. We know how much we spend. Landlords, help us, please. You will go and pay for expensive house, and then you have to pay for restructuring just to help you get around the house. It's no joke. So we need help. Osaki?
Okay, thank you. I'll speak to ladies on spinal cord injury. I'll tell you the body changes, no matter how it looks like. It's as if you are used to it, for that thing will come up. Just be patient with yourself and see and look for another coping strategy on how to cope, because the body will always change. Then to the government, like Grace said, our assistive device is too expensive. Either it could be a subsidiary rate on how the prices can come down. And for family and caregivers, they should a little bit patient with us, because some days your soul wants to do something, but your body is not ready to move. So that patience will be cultivated. Thank you.
Wow. Yes, so your soul wants, your spirit is willing, but the flesh can be very weak. All right, Tomisin, what do you have to say?
Okay, thank you very much. My advice on the session will go to first responders of emergency. So during conflict, accident, war, unrest, you have all that, they are called upon to respond to the situation. You have the police, you have the Red Cross, you have doctors, medical personnel, security personnel, and all of that. So I would say that these group of persons should please watch out for generally persons with disabilities during this unrest, because I mean, sometimes you find out that you are trying to move, people are even pushing you that move away from the road now. Can't you see? Can't you walk? And so it's a very difficult situation. Even when there are no unrest, people are so much in a hurry. And so we need this personnel, this security personnel, to also be on the top of their game. Trainings and retrainings will also go a long way to ensure that they can respond well to everybody, regardless of your demography or geographical location at that point in time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. First responders, and not just them, I think they should also be, media sensitization about how to help, persons with spinal cord injury and other persons with disabilities in times of crisis. Freki.
Okay, so I will just pick up from where Tomisin stopped. Every state has a disaster management board or agency or ministry or space. And what I'm going to speak to is the disaster management board of every state needs to consider that persons with disabilities are part of disaster management. So let's have a conversation on coming up with a template on how to manage displaced persons who are persons with disabilities in terms of crisis. Because I know that in the Northeast, where there's a lot of unrest, you cannot tell me that there are no persons with disabilities or persons with spinal cord injury. They are there. So if we can come up with a protocol, at least it's there. The steps are there. At least is a starting point. The second I want to speak to is healthcare professionals, especially road safety. Yeah, you people do drills on how to care for persons, accident victims. You see, a lot of persons have sustained spinal cord injury from road traffic accidents that shouldn't have sustained spinal cord injury, because it was not the accident that caused the spinal cord injury. It was the management of the person after the accident that caused spinal cord injury. So you may want to consider, doing optimal training on managing victims or survivors of road traffic accidents. Consider these things; they might reduce the incidences. Next, you that is a spinal cord injury survivor, if you don't take care of yourself, the world has plenty things to think about. So pick up courage. Don't die in isolation. I see that too many times, where we are too ashamed or to ask questions. We know that somebody is a spinal cord injury survivor, but we will not open our mouths and ask questions. Half of the things, 3/4 of the things I know is from asking questions. How did you do this one? How did you manage that one? Don't die in silence. Bold Hearts is also here to respond to you. Things that boldheartsnetwork.info@gmail, right, will answer you. Don't die in silence. Ask questions. Why am I saying this? I know of somebody who is today able to live over not one person, so many persons, live her life at least to some level because she asked a few questions and found out that what she was going through, she didn't necessarily need to go through. And then finally, to other disability clusters, it's time for us to get educated about other types of disabilities. Sometimes we are so cocooned in our space and we think everybody has polio. Oksaki, sorry. But all right, so let me thank you very much.
All right, we've addressed so many issues, and I think I'd like to talk to the government. It's not only COVID-19 that requires emergency preparedness. More often than not, even in the COVID-19, persons with disabilities have been excluded. So you can imagine, I remember at that time when I had to go out and, they say they will tell you wear face masks, do this, do that. I think it was here on Bold TV that we had to actually address the issue of how persons with disabilities could cope. Because you go out there and people are, oh, let me help you, and they are rushing and their hands are already all over your mobility. My wheelchair, up till today, I still carry a spray bottle of sanitizer because everybody's grabbing and holding and grabbing, and you're still going to touch those places they have touched. So there's a need for the government to be intentional about emergency preparedness, so that they are the ones that will create the policies that will inform how different agencies and parastatals respond in times of crisis towards persons with disabilities, that will take into account that, oh, as we are going there may be somebody who cannot see, or there may be somebody who cannot hear, there may be somebody who is on a wheelchair. How do we handle that person? So I think the government needs to begin to be intentional about how they deal with these situations and how to be more inclusive when it comes to handling people with spinal cord injury and people with other persons with disabilities. Like Freki said, road safety, they've caused a lot of done more harm than good in cases of accidents. I almost had the same situation because I was bundled into a car. I had to tell them, because I had some medical knowledge, I had to tell them, I'd rather have my back on the seat and my legs out the window. They said, no, what's wrong with your back? There's nothing wrong. If your back was broken, you won't be talking. And I'm like, just put my back on the seat. Because they were like, my legs should be there. They felt my legs were the problem. So I had to educate them that my legs are not the problem. Hang my legs out of the window, I don't mind. Let my back lie down. I had to guide them on how to carry me because I knew what had happened. Immediately I felt it. So there needs to be training and retraining, and just making sure that the information is passed across, knowledge is shared. And I think this is where organizations like the Spinal Cord Injury Association, they need to find a way to focus on agencies like the road safety, so that subsequently we'll have fewer cases, cases that can be prevented. People that could have gone on probably to recover from injuries will not end up with a lifetime of problems. So I think these are some of the things we need to do. And like Grace said, elections are coming. Please be safe. Don't go and be saying, I must stay and wait. Let me see how they will count these things. You're not a counter. Please go home. Do your part and go home, so that we can all live to fight another day. We have enough problems as it is. So ladies, I just want to say a huge thank you. You have done amazing today. The information has been concise. The information has been comprehensive. It has been, simple and easy to understand. And I believe that as many as have listened to us out there, they've picked up one or two things that will help make their lives easier. You're not alone in this. There are many others with you. So reach out, get information. To our online audience, I want to say thank you. You've done amazing. Thank you for always being there, watching, listening. Do well to drop your comments. And like Freki said, reach out. Go to our Facebook page, Bold Hearts Initiative. You will find where the email address that you can send your questions to. There is no question that is stupid. Ask any question. Does my poop, is it supposed to smell this way? Ask, we will answer. We've all been there. So please ask those questions. We will answer. We will help as much as we can. And where we can't, we'll forward you to someone who can help you. And then to our sponsors, thank you so much for always helping us stay, on air. For, everyone who has supported us in one way or another as a discussant in one form or the other. Thank you so much. Please share this video on your different social media platforms so that the information can get out there. It's not just for a closed group. Everybody needs to know it. There are people who may never belong to a group, but they need to hear this. And so as we round up, I'm going to say, join us next week, Saturday, same time, 10:30 a.m. in the morning. We'll be here once again to help you navigate this journey of disability. Thank you so much. Ladies, let's unmute and say our bye-byes as usual. So, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, bye.
Bye bye, as usual.
Set those wheels on fire.